Ready to go. All right. Welcome to Connects Live. I appreciate everyone coming today. My name is Mark Michelson. I'm the producer of CX Forums. And today our special guest is Jill Heineck. And Jill is the customer experience executive and owner of Heineck Company, which is part of Keller Williams real estate here in Atlanta. And she's also involved in, actually, Audrey, I don't know why you're popping up here, but you are. She's also very involved in everything related to real estate and customer experience, and has producing the customer experience radio show, of which I was a privilege to be on last year. So with all that said, Jill, I'd like to see you on here somewhere. I know you're here. Just chime in there and you'll be seen.
I'm right here.
Right there, yay. Well, you know how the speaker function works on this. It's the person talking is usually featured.
Right.
Thing. So if you guys want to put on your speaker mode in the view, it's upper right-hand corner, and make it easier for you to see. So welcome, Jill. Appreciate you taking time out. I know you probably are closing like 10 houses a day right now, right?
We're working on it if we can find them.
If you can find, yeah, I hear the inventory is a little low on that these days.
That's been one of the things that we've been really working on is trying to find those needle in the haystacks. And to be honest with you, they're really hard. We're trying to make our own inventory at the moment. And, you know, any agent who's been in this long enough, who's maybe lived through the last downturn, this is a different kind of situation that we're in. And the impact has been really interesting to see how families have been impacted, everything from home. So they realize the space they're in is not working, but yet we're not wanting to hurry up and sell until we know where we're going. So we're having to really trying to find that. I might have to build them. I mean,
Is this a relocation mostly, or is this like just families wanting to move in within a market? What do you see
both.
that?
It's both.
Both?
Right after, within the first 4 weeks of COVID hitting and the shutdown, and after people realized that they were just going to probably be in it for the long haul, our phones began to ring incessantly asking, with people who are moving from all different markets around the country. We had people moving from Denver to Chicago to, we had Boca Raton drive up to, they were literally making offers sight unseen, putting them under contract, driving up within 24 hours, 10-hour drive, do the inspection, turn around and go home. So there were a combination of relocation where they realized that their employers weren't going to have anybody back in the office for at least 9 months to a year. And they were already mostly home for work anyway, and decided that it was, most of these customers were looking at being closer to family.
So with I guess the key thing here is, I mean, these people are almost desperate for a new house, yet it's hard to meet anyone or see anyone. How is, you know, how are realtors leveraging during this time? How do you engage someone? Do you have them come into your office? You go to their, how do you do that?
Initially, it's all been via Zoom, and the customers that we're engaging with are customers that have been, I mean, probably 92% of my business is referral based. So that's based on the people that I know, the people that I speak to on a regular basis, the people that have worked with me, or the people who have referred me business. And that's both on the corporate level as well as repeat business. So we are just engaging. Social has been a huge part of, I'm sure with everybody else's business, same thing. We're reaching out to everybody on a regular basis and just checking in to see how they're doing. And a lot of times, the conversation isn't about real estate. It's how are you doing? And is there anything I can do to help you, particularly if they're local? And so we've been able to help out in many ways. We brought food for some of our older clients that could not leave the house. We've done a couple drive-by birthdays for some little kids who were just, the parents were just going bonkers. So we wanted to help them out and alleviate some stress. And so that's really what we've been doing. So from a customer experience perspective, this is just helping us build up and get ready for more business to come once, everyone's been vaccinated. We know we know 2021 in the Atlanta market is still on the uprise as long as we have inventory to sell.
Hmm. So is there a bubble coming on this thing because of lack of property to buy, or what do you think is going to happen in the future? I don't, we went through that bubble back in whatever it was, but there were so many cheap mortgages. So the 2008. Do you
Yeah,
see
this is a
anything like
little
that
different.
happening?
This is a
Yeah.
little different because it's not bank driven. It's environment. It's global. It's a pandemic. So it looks a lot different than it did then.
Mhm.
Um, Most people don't realize that in our market anyway, and I'm seeing in a lot of, I was on a call last night with 30 different markets where it seems like it's the same story, except for New York and San Francisco, that your home right now is your lotto ticket. You really could push it. So if maybe you're valuing your valuation somewhere around 800, you could probably push it 50 or 100 grand because that's where the demand is at.
Wow.
But where are you going?
Right.
So that is the conundrum with a lot of us, and particularly with school age kids. Most people don't want to be in limbo, and then finding a temporary rental, as we do in corporate many times, that's been a challenge too. So inventory all around is low. So what I try to do is spearhead that from a customer experience perspective. I don't want them to have those questions. I want to have the answers before they even ask them. So we've already lined up 10 temporary quarters companies that are ready to take my call, and it's going to be expensive, but they're available. So we know who exactly to call regarding temp housing. We know who takes pets and who doesn't. We know where the off-market opportunities are coming next. So if we only have to go into temporary housing for 3 months, we know in the 4th month we're going to be moving. So
Cool.
we just kind of have to think ahead and be proactive about it. Look for the opportunities, turn over every rock. We can't knock on doors. So we're writing letters and getting our client base to post on Nextdoor and Facebook groups if they know of any neighbors that are looking to sell. I mean,
How
we're
are they
trying,
doing
it's
even
crazy.
closings and stuff? There's a lot of stuff that happens. When I've bought houses in the past, you got the closing thing. The whole move-in process, the making an offer deal. I mean, is all that being done remotely now, or is there any kind of face to
A
face?
lot of it. So again, in the initial part of the pandemic, everybody shut down. So everything was via Zoom. And Georgia is very uh, old school when it comes to doing any closings virtually. So it took a while for that to be passed and allowed in Georgia for us to all be on Zoom because an attorney has to witness the signatures for the banks in Georgia. So
Right.
they had to really be creative about how that was going to work. As things let up a little bit, they would actually ask the agents not to come to the closings. I mean, we really are there for moral support and celebration, and we're not really signing anything. So they would just ask that the buyer and the seller show up to closing. They could show up separately at different times without being charged a split charge. They would be at the same time in different rooms, and the attorney would have to bounce. Um, so they also were doing drive-bys. So I had a 70-year-old client who wanted to be near her kids. She moved from an hour and a half away. We looked at 3 houses. She made an offer. I mean, everything happened like this. And then she went to go close, and I unfortunately didn't go, but she just did a drive-by closing. They had everything outside. She just put her stamp on everything and left. And so, and I had already dropped off her keys and everything else that she needed. But that is what a lot of markets are doing right now, especially for those who don't feel comfortable being indoors.
So these are things that are like you've been forced to do more or less. What are some things that you're seeing that are innovative or more wow on making people something that's not necessarily forced to do, but you've taken extra steps, then they go, oh wow, that was really different.
So one thing we're doing is we're doing a lot of value consults right now, which means like you might not be looking to move today or tomorrow, but we're doing kind of forecasting of what it might look like in 6 months from now. Maybe you're trying to wrap your head around it. There are things you have to do around the house. You're interviewing for a job. I have two clients right now interviewing for new jobs. They just don't know where that's where they're going to be, financially, and then with school kids. So they're just trying to figure all that out. So we're doing a lot of value consults right now, which has been really, really fun. And people really appreciate that because the pressure is off.
Mhm.
And I'm looking to give them information that is going to be impactful for their decision making.
Are there any, I remember getting gifts and things like that, whatever it was, some flowers or chocolates or something to celebrate moving in even. Is that still happening, or are people kind of wary about getting things?
So that's funny that you asked because we have always done, some kind of closing celebration and then kind of punctuate it with something special that is unique to the client.
Hmm.
Just because through the whole process, we're paying attention to what's important to them. And so yes, you are still seeing agents, kind of celebrating that way, even if they can't be there, it's being delivered to the home. Or they'll deliver it on the doorstep and leave. Um, but what we have been doing is we've created the customer experience milestone program, where during every milestone in the process, we're sending them something that is celebratory, because we want this to be a fun, exciting experience, even though we know there's stress in there. So for example, once we go under contract and remove contingencies, we are sending them, like one client got this really fun cookie bouquet from Tips Treats. I mean, it was really fun for them to get it at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon after being on Zoom all day. And somebody knocked on their door and they had this warm package and they
Hmm.
loved it. And then usually when we get to the point where we're a few weeks out from closing, I mean, the waiting is the hardest part. So we send them, sometimes we send them like a singing telegram. I mean, we get really silly sometimes, but that is what blows off steam and makes us stand out and makes them feel special. And so we've really created these little milestone moments along the way that's helped them to feel they made the right decision working with us, number one. And number two, they're already talking about the experience to their friends and family.
Have you guys mapped out things like a journey map? Do you use
Yes.
journey maps in this?
We don't call it that, but yes,
Mhm.
that's exactly what it is. And we call it really defining moments. And
Mhm.
that's where we map out, we don't want to be, have it to be overkill. Because at some point you're like, okay, enough already. But when we're not sending something, we're calling.
Mhm.
Or we're sending a quick text saying, is there anything that you feel uneasy about? Is there anything that I missed over the last couple of weeks? Because you have a lot of balls in the air, so we want to make sure that we try to can be proactive about it.
Is there a lot of automation in that from your office? Have you set up a lot of using these AI agents or whatever they are?
We have what we call Command. It's Keller Williams proprietary platform. And
Mhm.
basically it plots out each step of the process and they get an update every time something has been achieved. So they know, I mean, and in our process, it's very heavily documented,
Mhm.
lots of paperwork, lots of docu-signing. But we have a milestone program in our command platform where they are getting notifications when the T's have been crossed. And that just keeps them feeling like they're in the loop. Same thing with our mortgage partners, our inspection partners, our appraisal partners. They know where they are in the process.
Mhm.
And so they're getting notifications from all of our partners in the process.
Fascinating. So I imagine there's a lot of coordination with other offices around the country if you're dealing with a relocation kind of person. How does that work exactly? If you've got someone moving from, I don't know, the Northeast to here or
It's
vice
so
versa.
I'm working with a client right now who's moving from Greenwich, Connecticut to Atlanta for a job. We've been looking since April.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I literally am going to have to build them a house. It's insane that you can't find a house for 1.6 in Atlanta.
Wow.
I don't understand how this is happening.
1.6.
I don't understand. But we have where they're coming from. That market worked very differently during COVID. They work differently anyway in real estate transactions, but we've had to kind of re-educate on the process. They sold their house and it was
Mhm.
different than how it's happening here in Atlanta. So there's a lot of education happening. So in the real space, I'm pre-educating everyone. We're having these consults, multiple consults before they ever get here. Even if it's just a 10-minute call here and there, I'm just reminding them how it's going to be when they get here. And with COVID, it's an added layer when we're showing property. I mean, we're having to wear PPE. I'm bringing booties and gloves and sanitizer. I don't know what their level of comfort will be until we get there. We're not driving in each other's cars anymore. That's long gone. That's been gone in this market for a long time. We're just meeting up at the properties again, because you only have a handful to look at. So you just come from your kid's soccer game and you're going to meet me at 1, 2, 3, and then we're done. And then we talk on Zoom. And then I can go through the contract on Zoom if we're making offers. So that's what's been happening.
So if anyone has any questions for Jill, put it over in the comments section. In the meantime, I'm kind of curious, it sounds like you've got a great organization around you. You have your company, Heineck Company, as well as Keller Williams and all their resources. Is Keller Williams a national company? I'm just not aware.
Yes. So we are a global company.
Mhm.
We are now, I believe, in more than 50 countries, my understanding.
Wow.
We have been around since 83. I've been with the company, one of the first 25 to start the Keller Williams Southeast region in 99. So I started with our flagship office here in Sandy Springs, Georgia, and we've incubated 6 other offices, and it's just kind of grown from there. I think we have about 50 in the metro market now. And so we are global, and they encourage us to build our brand underneath the Keller Williams umbrella. And it's a company for agents by agents. Gary Keller himself was an agent who saw a need in the marketplace. And as we've grown, he touts our company as a technology company that's built for agents. So we're here to provide that customer, and literally the call I was just on before I got onto this one was all about the customer experience and how they're bolstering that through the technology platform to give us more robust tools to provide a better experience for the customer as they go through the process, particularly during COVID.
Excellent. Carl, unmute yourself, put your camera on, and ask your question if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm just curious, Jill, because we're in Massachusetts and we're looking at properties in Maine, and it's a couple hours away. And you see something online, and you want to go there, and we have done visits and looked at properties and stuff like that. But we noticed a lot of realtors are doing actually a video walkthrough. So instead of us driving all the way to Portland, Maine, we'll get on Zoom, and they'll just run their camera and walk through the house. So it's our virtual tour instead of being on. So do you find that that's happening where you are?
Oh,
Is that
yes.
a service that you're doing?
Oh, yes. So it's not as much now, being almost a year out from lockdown, the first lockdown. When we literally, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks after the initial lockdown, that's all I was doing. I was getting permission from the sellers for me to walk with pre-approved buyers, for pre-approved buyers. So I would have to provide a letter showing that my buyer, who is in Florida, that wants to buy here in Alpharetta, Georgia, that they're going to risk it and let me come in on behalf of them and do the walkthrough. And 9 times out of 10, it was not a problem as long as we took the necessary precautions. So that was a great way for this one client I mentioned that drove 10 hours. I walked through the house with him, and his wife was on the other phone, and we were all walking through together. Now she would say to me, all right, now I want you to show me where the air conditioning registers are. Now, nobody has ever said that to me, not even in person. And so I was doing it with my phone. She's like, the reason why I ask is because I get very hot, and if it's in the wall, it doesn't help. It needs to be in the floor.
Oh, boy.
What? So, all righty then. Thankfully, they made an offer, and it was all good.
Yeah.
But that is exactly what's happening. And still, in some pockets in our market, they're still doing that. Some sellers are just not comfortable, having anyone else besides the agent in the house.
And if I can sneak in just one other quick question here, are you finding that, again, with the low inventory, that homes are actually selling for way over the asking price, and it's like a bidding war?
It is a bidding war. It's not necessarily in our market. And again, we're hyper local markets in here. So the pocket, it depends on the pocket really. But I wouldn't say as a rule, they're going that too far over. I mean, depends on the price point. So we're seeing in the 300s, maybe they're going 15, 20,000 over. In the 800 to $1.2 million market. They're not necessarily going that high, but they're taking out all the stipulations.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really less and they're stripping it down. So it is one of the cleanest things. We just dealt with a 17 offer situation in less than 24 hours. I mean, blow my brains out. It's insane what people will do. But what I see is that people are also throwing gum at the wall. So my suggestion to you, and this is the suggestion I make to my buyers, is let us make our highest and best, most cleanest offer. This is what the very highest you are willing to spend on this property. If they come back, then it'll be up to you if you want to risk and take it up a little bit higher. But
Oh.
if you really want this property, that's how we're winning bids.
Great.
That's just how we're winning it. It's not always about the money. And we, and I have to prep during the value talk in the beginning, even with our buyers, sellers are looking at offers holistically. Yes, money's important, but what about terms like timing? Are you asking me for a lot of concessions? I mean, what is the whole offer looking like, and how is that going to impact my life?
Yeah. And also, if you're a cash buyer or something like that, could be really incentive,
We have
Absolutely.
another guest here. Anastasia, see you later. So we have another question here from Daniel. Daniel, if you'll turn your video and mic on. Carl, if you turn your video off. And
Hi, Jill. Good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm in Reno. I migrated from the Bay Area to Lake Tahoe, and then now here I am in Reno, and it's going. It's stupid.
It's insane.
People are moving here months in advance just so they could hawk on any available home. So here's what's cool is my second life is I'm a developer and I'm buying up dirt and yeah, right. So we're making an offer tomorrow on 21 lots at $100 grand per door at a 450 sell, right?
Smart.
Right. So there's opportunity, but here's what's crazy to me. With all of the jobs that are so scarce and people complaining about, there's massive rolls on unemployment and, money's tight and there's a ton of uncertainty. It blows me away how many people are making, sight unseen offers. Cause I sold my house sight unseen to a couple in South Shore, Lake Tahoe for 150 over asking. Like, who are these people? Where are they getting their money? And I think the answer is, well, it's California and everybody's fleeing the high tax state, right? Because we don't have any state taxes here in Nevada.
Right.
So, but I'm interested in getting your take because this is a national phenomenon.
It is happening. It is definitely happening. It is the one thing that I can say to you about this is that the sight unseen buyers there's some desperation there. We're trying, every dynamic has been different, but I think feeling locked in, feeling like feeling like they have no escape, feeling like there's, because when they're, especially being from California, there's no end. They don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's a mess. It's a big mess and they keep going in and out of lockdown. And I get why they did that. But at the end of the day, they also know the return is going to be high too. So again, it's going to depend on the market, but you're doing the right thing. We were just on a call with Gary Keller, who was saying, the next 3 to 5 years, we're looking at new construction booms. We are looking at new construction booms because we have to create inventory.
Yeah.
And I mean, even we're talking about in the luxury markets around the country, they're saying these dogs that were sitting on the 15 to 30-year-old giant mansions that were just sitting on the market for at least a year or two prior to COVID are now being snapped up like no tomorrow. But we feel like in a year or two, we're going to see buyer's remorse and they're going to flip back.
Yeah,
and they're going to try to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's interesting, but we got this house. It went on market. We got notified within hours, right? And my wife just made an offer, just like
So you do.
all all cash offer.
Yep.
You know, and you have to be the first in, because if you're not first in, then you're like the fifth offer. And it's so crazy that people are, and that's what's going on right now is they're just making offers just so they can get a foothold in the door.
Right. Exactly.
We have one more question, then we're going to have to get into the networking side here. Jill, the question here is from India, I believe, and they're saying, since your firm's global in nature and you're dealing with things like Matterport scans and 3D views and such, have you come across any specific issues and they form perception that it'll be expensive or out of their league?
In terms of the property themselves?
Mm-hmm. Do they, because of the glamorization online versus what they might see in person?
Not necessarily that, but I will say that, and you probably know this just because you're probably online seeing homes too. Even if you're not in the market, people like to look at homes online. Most homes, in my opinion, most pictures online do not translate in person. So they're either worse or much better. So our goal and this is what we talk about with every client, is that you can expect that we are going to stage and photograph your home as it looks, and there's not going to be enhancements to make it look better or worse than it is. So when, it's infuriating as an agent when you're showing property to clients who are coming in for a 24-hour buy visit, and they come in, they're like, this is not what we saw online. And we just wasted time.
Opposite of a wow.
And it happens a lot, unfortunately, but, so I don't think it affects it necessarily, like perception of value from that. It's just a letdown and disappointing a lot of the time.
Right.
But Matterports to me kind of distort the rooms. So I do virtual tours, but not necessarily with Matterports unless I actually need to show the, the view of the floor plan.
Excellent. Well, we are ready now to begin our networking portion of the program. We're just a little bit behind, but I think we'll be fine on that. Thank you so much, Jill, for your wisdom and sharing everything about the real estate market. Makes me feel like I've missed out on something. I didn't get into to the thing to sell my house or anything. But one more thing. Have you heard of the musician Keller Williams?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
He's played at a couple of our conferences.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Well, thanks again. We're going to get it right into our networking session now. And if you're viewing this online, you would be here meeting with the other folks who are here. Join us every Wednesday at 1:30, and you never know who you'll meet. So thanks again, and take us out, Audrey. All right. Now we're going to stop the cloud recording.